I've been a direct marketer and a consultant for 3 years now, and in this video I'm going to break down how you can instantly, yes, instantly, I'm not joking, 2 times, 3 times, potentially even 4 times, depending on the situation, the value of any sale that you make with your online coaching or consulting business. So let's not waste any time and let's get straight into it. First of all, let me ask you a question. Who do you think in the world is the easiest group of people for you to sell your stuff to? Okay, really think about this for a second. And the answer is this. It's people who've already bought from you. It sounds so simple and easy, but it's true, okay? And this is because they've already taken a chance on you before by literally sending you a sum of money for something in exchange, and they've assumingly had a positive experience with you. I hope they have, but if they have, then that's going to mean that the resistance to buying from you is going to be so much lower than it will be from newer leads that have never had any sort of dealings with you before. And this is basic behavioral science. The people who've bought from you already have had a positive experience with you. So naturally, they're going to want to come back to get more of that, right? It sounds so simple. And this is really well put into perspective in the first scene of AMC's Mad Men TV show. Amazing drama that anybody in business should watch. I wholly recommend it. It begins with the main character, Don Draper, who's trying to sell some Lucky Strike cigarettes. And he has a conversation with this waiter at the bar. He says, "What brand of cigarettes do you smoke?" And he says, "Old Golds." And he says, "Why do you smoke Old Golds?" He says, "Because I like them. I used to have them back in the military, and I've only ever smoked Old Golds." And Don says, "Well, could I ever convince you to switch and try Lucky Strikes?" And the waiter says, "No. I love my Old Golds." Okay? There is absolutely nothing that Don can do to make this person who's had a positive experience with Old Golds so many times he's not going to switch to Lucky's, okay? And by the way, I'm not endorsing smoking here. I've never smoked, and please do not come after me. But because of that positive experience, naturally you cannot get this waiter to switch brands. It's just not going to happen, which is really funny considering this is an entire TV show about trying to advertise stuff. But it basically encapsulates this really straightforward thing that my friend once told me, which is basically, if your stuff is good, people will want more of it. It's that simple, okay? When people have had a good experience, they're going to want more good experiences from you. So you're actively leaving money on the table by not giving people more of what they want, okay? It's kind of funny. And we'll talk numbers in a minute because just give it a few seconds first, because first of all, yes, you now understand that there is insane leverage in selling again to the same people, but you need to know exactly how you can do this, okay? There's no point me talking numbers if you don't actually know how to do it, because that's going to defeat the entire point of this video. So let's talk about how you can get the same group of people to buy stuff from you again. There are 2 obvious ways to begin with, okay? First of all, it's just repeat purchases. So people buy the exact same thing again, okay? Just that's pretty straightforward. This is mainly the case for things that are non-durables, non-durable goods, so things you can only consume one time. So that's going to be, like food, drinks, anything that, you have to replace after you use the one time, right? And second of all, that's going to be subscription models. So people who were going to pay to retain access to the same thing, the same product or service. So that's going to be stuff like paid communities, Netflix, anything like that. So stuff that offers really good retention value. They're always adding more and more of an incentive to stay and to not cancel the subscription. That is, of course, the second way that you can get people who've already paid you once to pay you again and again and again. But there is another. There is a third way to get people who've already paid you to pay you again. And it's not talked about as much for some reason, but let's talk about it right now. Let's reveal what the hidden third way is. Behold, it is the upsell. Now, you may or may not have heard this term before. Now, strangely enough, quite a few people have not. So if you're not familiar with what an upsell is, basically it is selling something else to someone who has already bought from you. They've already bought something from you originally, okay? That's all an upsell is. And a high converting upsell is definitely by far the easiest and the most profitable way you can increase your average order value and your lifetime value per customer it's just the most straightforward thing that you can do, because as I mentioned before, you're dealing with people who've already had a positive experience with you. The resistance to giving you money is going to be so much lower. That's why it's so easy and so profitable, okay? And yet, despite this, despite this huge opportunity for leverage, most online businesses are either completely unaware of this, like entirely, which is crazy, or they are aware of what an upsell is, but they don't use them, or they don't use them very effectively, okay? But in failing to, you lose out on both a huge opportunity for a bunch of bonus cash to be collected, which everybody loves cash, okay? We can use that to reinvest and stuff like that. And actually, it also threatens the long-term security of your business. More on that in a moment, but it really does. So let's just look at how this works. Let's tell the popcorn story, right? One time, I was at the cinema, and this is before everything became really, really just overpriced and just extortionate. It was still pretty expensive at the time, but I was going to buy myself some popcorn and a drink, right? So I get myself the bag of popcorn. I say, I want a medium Pepsi, okay? Now the sales rep, the cashier, basically says, do you want to upgrade to a large Pepsi for £1? And I think to myself, no. I say, no, I don't want to. And she's like, are you sure it's £1? Now, this is a good deal, okay? Because you're upgrading from a medium Pepsi to a large Pepsi for just £1, okay? That's actually not a bad deal. This is an upsell in the wild, okay? And I knew exactly what she was doing. And I didn't want a large Pepsi because I thought if I have a large Pepsi, well, I'm not going to see a really long movie. I don't need it. And I'll just need to use the bathroom. And I don't want to have to deal with that. So I stuck with the medium. But think about it like this. Let's say you have 1,000 people come in every day. And let's say 50% of them, 500 of them, accept this upsell, right? That's an extra £500 in revenue that was not there before, right? And that just keeps going up depending on how big of an upsell it is. For something like this, obviously it's going to be quite small, but that's just an everyday example, okay? And that's going to be tons and tons of extra revenue that would not have been there before, right? Think about how effective that is. And again, another really, really obvious and straightforward example of this is just the classic McDonald's, would you like fries with that? And man, this food looks absolutely disgusting. But classic example that we're all familiar with. That is an upsell. And you'll start to realize that literally everywhere does this, okay? And this is because they know, just like I know, that offering to sell you more stuff, right, after you've already made the decision to buy something from them, is naturally going to give them a bunch of free extra revenue that they would not have got before. It's insane leverage, okay? And that's why all of the most successful businesses on the planet do this. Now, okay, there's some pretty simple, straightforward, everyday examples, but we're dealing with an online business here. So that's going to mean that we're probably selling things like pretty expensive packages, pretty expensive one-on-one things, not like consumer goods, okay, unless you own like a brand or something. So it's going to be a little bit different, the way that we use upsells in our situation. But it's going to be something that goes a bit like this. Thanks for buying my course. Do you also want one-to-one support from me, okay? Tons and tons of successful info product sellers and course sellers also make a hell of a lot more extra money by aggressively scaling on, you know, maybe 5 to 10% of people on the back end after selling, of course, the main like offer on the front end, which is the course, and then taking the people in the course and be like, hey, do you want the one-to-one coaching program that's really intensive? And they can make tons and tons and tons of extra money just from doing that and aggressively closing people on the back end. Another example, thanks for joining my community. Would you like to upgrade to an annual plan and get bonus alongside 3 months of the year free? Okay, this is something actually that paid community I'm in actually does. It's a really good deal, okay? This is another example of what you can do depending on what your offer is. For my business, for instance, that's like, okay, thanks for paying for this service delivery, and you know, we've done and patched up your sales funnel, we've given you some deliverables. Would you also want to have access to our consulting service, which is we have things like strategy calls and we help you implement the stuff that we've already created for you. We do things like post-launch live support. We'll make more deliverables for you, help you with systems and that kind of thing. And because there's so much value in that, instead of me just giving you a one-time project, you know, that's going to incentivize people to want to keep paying me to keep me on. That's an upsell. That's an example of an upsell in my own business, right? Now, upsells are not just free money in the short run, okay? Which they are, but they're not just this. And they're also crucial to ensuring that your business actually stays profitable in the long run, okay? And let me explain how that works. Are you familiar with this, okay? CAC to LTV ratio. Let me break this down for you. This is basically the customer acquisition cost to the lifetime value per customer ratio. Now this, you need to make sure that your CAC is smaller than your LTV because, right, this is just simple customer acquisition. If you're paying more to acquire a customer than what that customer is paying you back, then that is bad. You are operating at a loss and your business is going to go into the ground in no time, right? So what you need to make sure is that you are investing less to get the customer than what the customer is actually paying you back. And by the way, when it comes to acquisition cost, this can be financial or time-based, okay? Temporal, I think is the word. So, like I've just said, if all that's going into your customer lifetime value is just a one-time sale, then that's a lot of lost cash over time. And it's also a really great way to run out of customers super, super quickly, okay? But if you're able to implement a upsell, the lifetime value per customer is going to be huge because you're not just getting the one-time sale, you're also getting the upsell. And if you're, you know, really aggressive with retention, depending on the nature of your offer, again, that's more lifetime value. So what you'd be paying to get the customer is going to be so much less than what they're paying you back. That is a profitable business, right? And again, this is exactly why winning businesses look to keep customers as long as possible. It's why the best paid communities are always adding new stuff to keep the incentive for resubscribing there. Same with things like Apple, okay? When you buy an Apple product, you're basically in the Apple ecosystem. You buy an iPhone, okay, well now I'm going to buy the AirPods, I'm going to buy the MacBook, right? And I'm going to keep buying Apple products. So that means that the lifetime value for Apple from their customers is absolutely enormous, and they are a part of that ecosystem over there with that business. And ultimately, just to close out really, is just remember this. Your upsells, of course, have to be valuable. You cannot just be like, hey, thanks for paying for my package. Do you want a 5-page PDF document for, I don't know, however much money as well? Okay, if it's not valuable, then that's kind of pointless. So make sure that your upsells are genuinely valuable, and that'll be good. Because if they're not valuable, okay, and if you are just trying to con people out of getting more money, well, that's not going to give you the long-term sustainability that a good upsell is actually going to give you, which, like I said, it's essential to staying profitable in the long run. You are just going to shoot yourself in the foot, okay? Don't sell stuff that's not valuable, okay? That sucks. So now you understand what it takes, okay? Now you understand how you can implement an upsell in your own business. The last thing to do is go ahead and implement this, okay? And if you would like any help with going ahead and implementing a high converting upsell into your own online offer, then by all means go ahead down below and you can see about booking a call with me, and I'll have a look at your offer and help you in implementing the best upsell that you can for your business as well, to just skyrocket that LTV of your customers and to really help you get some extra cash, some long-term security. It's amazing, okay? Great stuff. Do be sure to go ahead and book a free call with me if you would like to. And other than that, that is about all we have time for today. I hope you found this video really valuable. I hope you learned a lot. And yeah,